we're gonna go into the back again and start getting that whole CD changer thingy out so we can get to that amplifier. Fun. Ahead and zip tied up the fiber optic up out of the way. We're not going to be using it anymore. You don't want to pinch it. It's a glass tube that doesn't need to get squished, so make sure you keep it in a nice circle. We want to get to this harness here. Fortunately, I don't have a harness that plugs into this. We are going to be cutting into this harness. You know I don't like to do that. To make sure anytime you do have to cut a harness for whatever reason, make sure you leave enough wires. Cut it down, like there's plenty of wiring here. It's like 2.5 feet of wiring. You can cut it and make sure we leave enough that if they ever wanted to put this back to factory for whatever reason. If any of you guys do know of a part for this though, please, by all means, add it into the comments because I would love to buy this harness for this car. What we want to try to do is figure out a way to mount the amplifier into one of these mounts that we took out. I'm thinking that the 6-dish changer mount might be perfect for that Kenwood amp because that Kenwood amp is nice and small. I'm going to get all this goo off my fingers. Before I do that, I'm just going to go over this with some cleaner and try to get as much of the goo off of this as possible. And then I'll meet you over at the workbench. So this is the area I'm thinking I want to mount this. So we could definitely use this, however, it will be making adjustments fairly difficult, and I don't think it'll fit this way, but dang, that would look nice. I would have to like remove a good portion of this. Let me grab where the factory amp was and let's check that part. This is the factory amplifier mount here, and this is only slightly taller than that, but this side here, that actually might show promise if I remove a lot of this silliness, because there's nothing in that. Let me go fit this back in the car. I think we might have a winner. Now this angle isn't here for any specific reason. There's not a part of the car here. There's actually plenty of room to the right and left of this. So even though I would love to put it inside of this, I'm not going to. Trim off all these extra pieces here. And of course we'll remove the factory amp out of here because it's not needed. Got that side all flat, as you can see. Now what we want to do is just take it over, make sure that this is going to clear the car. Then we'll make an ABS panel this is going to attach to so that it'll go into the car. We're not just going to screw it to this aluminum thing. This is where the amplifier is going to end up. It'll sit just like this inside that mount. At this point, we have the trunk apart. We figured out where we're going to put our amplifier. We have the radio out of the dash. We've gone ahead and found out that the antenna that Paul gave us is the right one because we tested for accessory. We know what harness we need to get. It's a 1784. We're only going to be using 3 wires in it. We'll cut it down to the bare minimum amount of pins that we need there. Fernando's got the Sirius XM in. What we're going to do now and get this amplifier mounted, get that bracket made, get that taken care of. Fernando's probably going to hop on that. I'm going to hop on the radio, getting that all apart and figuring out how that all bolts into the factory dash panel, and then we'll see what happens from there. So what we want to do is get the radio unattached from the trim bezel here. Right away there is 4 T20 Torxes, and then the radio just lifts right out. The wood grain just snaps into place like that. Look at that. Actually looks pretty good. I mean, obviously it's not perfect. It's 15-year-old wood grain, but it doesn't look terrible.
Actually, it matches.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice.
You know?
Well, that apparently was the easy part. It does come with these 2 metal brackets right here. Figure out how to get these attached to the radio and then get this back in the car. On this radio here, as you notice, there's these 2 Phillips screws. Pull those off. We've grabbed the instructions just to get an idea of how these guys are supposed to attach themselves. It looks like they go on like this. But what I'm going to do is just set it in here first and kind of get an idea. So it took like, I don't know, 10 or 15 tries getting these brackets lined up the way they needed to be, unlike the cool little diagram that just shows line it up straight, screw it in. Well, we know how that always ends up. Anyways, we have it mounted nice and flush in the dash. It looks really good. And then we'll go grab the harness and start working on that. For the harness on this car, I went ahead and grabbed a 1784R, which is primarily gonna be one for a Mercedes. And the reason why is they have it pinned correctly for Mercedes. We're not gonna be using any of these RCAs or any of these other wires that are on here. All we need is these three right here. And remove the wires we don't need, and also this whole half of the plug we're just gonna get rid of because we don't need it, and I don't wanna stick this giant thing in the dash if it's not gonna do any good. So we've made the harness that we want. The harness is all prepped and ready to go. What we've done here on the end is we've used male connectors on this side. And the reason why we use male connectors on this side, except for the remote turn on, that's a female connector, is that the wires coming from the car are the ones that are gonna have voltage. We wanna make sure they have a female connector, which is totally insulated. We're gonna be plugging into those. So on this side, we want to have the male. That way, anything that's gonna have power is properly insulated if it gets disconnected. Let's head into the car. All our cables are in place. Start plugging the radio in, set it back into the dash. The yellow one goes in the other hole. This one? Yeah, it goes in the hole in the center. Fernando just finished up getting this all wired and ready to go. So the amplifier, like we said, is tucked in right there. It's mounted on some 1/2-inch plastic, all screwed back into the factory locations. Fuse holder is in, very short run there. It's all zip tied up across the back of the car right here. There's a factory ground point right here, so it was a short run up. Let's hop in real quick and see what it looks like. There we go. That is the finished product in the car. Looks really nice. Fit and finish is good, like it fits this hole perfect. So overall, this one was a success for sure. Sounds good. He kept his factory speakers, even though I'm not a big fan of doing that. Who knows, they're probably blown in a week anyways. Maybe we'll do part 2 to this, you never know. Set the clock as always, because you gotta make sure you set the clock, right, Fernando?
Right.
Other than that, we're gonna get it out of here. I know you guys are always like, let's hear what it sounds like. Sounds like a factory system with some Kenwood power. Hey, one other thing about this Kenwood. We had someone ask about this. When you're adjusting the volume, they ramp up to 15. If you hold the button, it go right up to 15. At 15, you actually have to hit the button every single time. It's really weird how they do that. All right, guys, we're done with this one. It's been fun. It's been real. On to the next one.